Hello and welcome to this week's Gersnet Podcast. Breathe out, relax, that's it. It's not always been pretty, but it's over for another year. Rangers have wrapped up their season with a point away at both Aberdeen and Hibs to cement third place for the second season running, thanks in part to Sporting Integrity FC over in the East. We've got a bumper edition of the Gersnet Podcast this week as we look back over a tense affair up in Aberdeen, followed by a crazy afternoon in Leith to bring the season to a close. With 12 goals, 2 controversial penalties and also a sighting of the lesser spotted Rossiter, we've got plenty of on-the-park action to get stuck into. Also, as the playing action's done for another season, we'll take a look back over the past 9 months of Portuguese proverbs and Kenny Miller suspensions and try and assess the season as a whole. And finally, we'll be looking ahead to the most exciting summer in decades as we welcome Stevie G to Ibrox and get ready to launch another push for 55. My name's Ross Bennett and I'll be your Gersnet Podcast host this afternoon. And joining me on the pod, first up, we've got David Fraser. David, how's things this evening?
Evening, Ross. Evening, Colin.
So also joining us, we've got Colin Armstrong. Colin, have you managed to settle down after the display at Easter Road today?
Yeah. I mean, it was frantic stuff, wasn't it? It was quite an enjoyable game, but I have settled in. Had a wee barbecue in the sun, so it's kind of left the system a wee bit now, but it's raring to go. Right, fantastic. Well, without further ado, let's crack on with the show. So first up, we're going to have to cast our minds back a wee bit to last Tuesday when Rangers made the long trip up north to Pittodrie. We saw that the team was set up back to a 4-5-1 after going 2 up top previously. We saw Ross McCrory brought back in from the start as a defensive midfielder. Colin, what do you reckon about the setup? Was this the right way to set the team up away from home to go back to a 4-5-1? I kind of think at the moment, well, obviously today was a wee bit different because we had injuries, but it's kind of felt for the last few weeks that the team kind of picks itself, if you know what I mean. They've tried, when they went 4-4-2 against, was it Kilmarnock? That didn't seem to work. So I think 4-5-1 was kind of always going to be the formation he was going to go with. I think McCrory's fit. He's going to start in that defensive midfield position because that seems to be his best position. So yeah, I think Nicol got it right on Tuesday night. Yeah,
I think you're probably right. It's a difficult place to go, Pittodrie, and Aberdeen have got plenty of goals in them. So to kind of pull back from 2 up top was probably a bit more conservative and a bit more cautious, but probably the right way to go. David, last Tuesday we had an incredibly fast start, and for the first few minutes of the game we were all over them. Aberdeen couldn't get a touch on the ball, and then that all changed when a penalty was given to Aberdeen for a supposed alleged foul by Alfredo Morelos following an Aberdeen corner. They get a penalty, they score it, they go 1-0 up, and it totally changes the game. Now, first things first, David, was it a penalty?
Where I was in the ground, I had a really good view of it. There's no chance it was a penalty. I was screaming that it was a dive at the time, so how Stephen McLean deemed that to be a penalty when it was right in front of him is only he can tell you how he thought that was the case. But there you go, another decision goes against Rangers this season, and as today proved, there was more to come.
Look, there's plenty of referee decisions that we're going to get through in the next hour or so. So we'll definitely cover some of these decisions which have cost us so dear, not just this last week, but over the course of the whole season. Colin, as I mentioned there, before the penalty for Aberdeen last week, we were so good for the first 15 minutes and then so bad for the next 30 in the first half until we managed to kind of reorganise at half time. How much do you reckon the penalty affected the players?
I think it definitely affected them. I think it's another sign that this current Rangers team is not a mentally strong Rangers side. They seem to, anytime any expectation gets put down in front of them, they crumble. And I think the turning point or when this was revealed, because I think in January, as we've discussed on the pod before, I thought we'd done some decent business in January. We went on a wee run. We went on a sort of decent run of, stringing some results together. And there was a start, at one point it started to feel like, it used to feel as a Rangers supporter, a lot of routine wins and stuff like that. And then the Celtic game at Ibrox when we got beat 3-2, again, they came out the traps, scored early doors. And they were making a fist of it when they were sort of fighting as the underdogs, when the expectation was put down on them. When Celtic went down to 10 men, And all of a sudden the expectation is, right guys, you have to get a result here. They just crumbled. And since that game, the performances have been pretty poor. It showed at Motherwell as well when we were 2-0 down after about 20 minutes or something. Just the minute anything goes against them, they seem to crumble a wee bit. And that's something that needs to be addressed for next season. You know, they need to be a lot stronger mentally. They need to face all these challenges, because as Tuesday night proved at Pittodrie, the minute one thing goes against them, that's it. They just seem to crumble a wee bit.
I see what you're saying there, Colin, but I mean, you've highlighted a couple of performances there, such as the Motherwell game where we were 2-0 down within 20 minutes, and then the impact that this penalty at Aberdeen had on the team last week. But neither of those are games that we've gone on to lose. In fact, they're games that we've gone on to come back into the game later on. I think I've also seen that, statistically speaking, Rangers have picked up the most points in the league, having gone 1-0 down. So it seems that teams are finding a way to get the first goal, but actually, out of everyone else in the league, Rangers have the best stats for being able to get over that and being able to come back into the game and still pick up points. So, Colin, I think it's a bit unfair to kind of label them as not having the mentality to kind of stand up to challenges when, you know, they've gone 1-0 down away at Aberdeen, but they fought back and got a point and probably should have had all three, especially considering it was never a penalty. They've done it at other hostile environments like at Motherwell. And we were picking up points despite going a goal down so often. Does that not show a little bit of bottle?
I think the home form undermines that, though. You know, I think that's when you see how mentally strong these players are when they're playing in front of 50,000 supporters who demand and expect them to win. I think that's when you've seen just how fragile this team can be. I hear what you're saying. I mean, our away form has been pretty fantastic this season, and if they replicated some of that at home, then who knows where we would be. But it's the home form that I think shows just how mentally fragile this side is, and the fact that on Tuesday night, I know they came back eventually with Ross McCrory scoring the goal, but the fact was we were, for that 10-15 minutes, we were running all over the top of them, and then one bad decision and it knocked them for at least the rest of that first half. They were all over the shop. You know, they couldn't get out the bit at all. So yeah, I hear what you're saying, but no, I do think there's an issue at Ibrox in terms of the mentality. I don't think they're strong enough at times.
I don't disagree with you. I think we're actually still kind of struggling with a mindset that Warburton is very responsible for, where he's brought in these kind of characters who had a bright future in the game, but never had the footballing brain, never had the mindset, never had the winning competitive edge. And that's what we're still playing so many of these characters that came up under Warburton that are still making our matchday squad. It just shows that the winning mentality is not there, and that's partly because the recruitment's not been good enough to replace these guys that Warburton brought up. So I think I agree with you, Colin. I think that there's not a winning mentality. There's certainly not a strength of character that you need to wear the Rangers strip. David, you mentioned there that you were at the game at Pittodrie in the week. How would you rate the performance of the lads coming out after half-time? Something definitely changed at half-time, and we were very much the superior side. It certainly seemed that way watching it on TV in the second half. How did it look from your position at Pittodrie?
They certainly upped their game. It seemed, to touch back on what Colin was mentioned there, when the penalty decision went against them, it was almost as though they lost their heads a wee bit. There was a couple of rash challenges. Sean Goss, kind of considered himself lucky, maybe not to get sent off. Jason Holt, he went through Dominic Ball in the main stand side near the touchline. There is a mentality thing. It's almost as if there's a shot that pricks the bubble of confidence, if you like, and it's almost as though there's a lack of star players, that they can look to and say, right, well, I'll go back in time here and say, well, the likes of maybe Brian Laudrup or Paul Gascoigne, say, Brian's on the pitch, we can give the ball to Brian, he'll do something, get us out of hole. There's not that level of quality there, and there's maybe not that level of authority within the playing squad. Somebody that can actually take the responsibility on the part and say, right, give me the ball, I'll make things happen. But to get back to the second half, I think Jimmy Nicholl obviously got them in at half time, calmed them down a wee bit, obviously said to them, you don't lose your head, you've kind of lost your focus a wee bit. They got refocused, came out in the second half and played well, and without ever being dangerous. are overly dangerous. They didn't create too many clear-cut opportunities. I mean, Morelos was sent through. There's a chance it fell to Sean Goss where he leaned back and he blazed it over the bar. Jimmy also made a telling substitution. He brought Jason Cummins on, and that made a difference. The players come down the road. Yeah, it was disappointing to drop 2 points, given that it was basically a must-win game. But I think, given I've been quite critical of them during this season, I think that they deserve some credit for fighting their way back into the match and at least not losing it. Because Aberdeen, when you've got as much possession as we tended to have in the second half, without creating too many chances, there's always a chance that the opposition can break upfield and nick a goal, and that would have been really deflating going into today's game. So all in all, I would say credit where credit's due.
Aye, absolutely. Do you think a draw was a fair result then, David, or do you think we deserve to get 3 points?
I would say over the piece, a draw was probably fair. I mean, you could look at it two ways. You could say, well, Aberdeen got a penalty they should never have got. Jack Anick didn't have much to do, if memory serves me correctly. The only chance that I can think of that, apart from the two that I've just mentioned there, with Morelos and Goss, the Morelos one, he let the ball run across him just a fraction too long where he could have taken a shot. McCrory, obviously, I mean, he scored a good goal, but other than that, there wasn't a lot of chances created, and that's down to the level of quality in the team. Jamie Murphy, he seemed to play a wee bit better when he moved inside. That was similar to today as well. He seemed to be a wee bit more assured within himself when he moved inside. So, but I think over the piece, I think a point was a fair reflection in the game.
Fair enough. Right, so then after we pick up a point away at Pittodrie, we fast forward to Sunday, and we go to Easter Road for one of the most madcap mental performances I have ever seen. I was at the game away at Hamilton earlier in the season, when obviously there were goals flying all over the place for a wee spell, and it was one of the most bizarre matches of football I'd ever seen, and I didn't think it would be topped. I certainly didn't think it would be topped this season. Hibs 5, Rangers 5. Colin, I'll come to you first. There were some surprises there in the starting lineup. The main surprise for me, obviously, we knew that Morelos was going to be out suspended, and so Cummins was always going to start. We also knew that McCrory was out suspended. The surprise for me was that Jordan Rossiter was there alongside Sean Goss. I'd have thought that one of those would have been left out for Greg Docherty. But it seems that Greg Docherty can't get a game no matter what he does at the moment. Were you surprised by Jordan Rossiter and Sean Goss starting in the middle of the park?
Aye, very much so. Ross, it was a real strange one, and you kind of fear for the boy Docherty now. I thought he started his Rangers career well, but he seems to have played himself out the team, and he's struggling to get back in. But to be fair to Rossiter, I thought he'd done well. I thought he had a no bad game, considering it was kind of similar when they brought Dorrans back in against Motherwell. Straight for the start. Again, you were kind of questioning that, thinking surely it's a game that you would bring him on and give him a half hour. And I'm sure Dorrans played 90 minutes that day. So it was a wee bit like that. I was a wee bit surprised, given we knew what Hibs were going to be like today. It was going to be, they were going to come at us. So I was a wee bit surprised that he came in, but he done well. And maybe Jimmy Nicholl's seen something in training that we can't see. We're not there day in, day out. The boy's been injured for a long time. He's maybe been shown something in training that's made Jimmy Nicholl think that's the boy I need for today. And he did. I thought he'd done well, and you never know, it could be a turning point for him. But on Docherty, as I said, I like the boy, but I really am starting to fear for him now. I just wonder if someone somewhere's made their mind up on him. Oh,
I suppose though with Docherty, he's one of the lads who's got sort of the most to gain from the change in manager. Playing in a similar position to Stevie G, a young guy, bags of talent. By all accounts, he sounds like he's got a decent work rate and a work ethic. He's one of these guys that hopefully Gerrard would be able to mould into kind of a player in his own image, I feel like. So you'd think Docherty's kind of glad to see the end of this season and looking forward to getting back in pre-season and really impressing someone that you'd have grown up idolising at any rate. But to stick with Rossiter for a moment, I think, Colin, you're absolutely right, and he had a good game, all things considering. He took his goal really well, some real nice composure. Good touch into the box, lovely finish past the keeper. And so, actually, considering how long he's been out, yes, there were some sloppy passes, 1 or 2 tackles where he was a split second late, nothing overly malicious. The thing that impresses me about Jordan Rossiter is the way he reads the game. It's the brain that he's got, and that he always seems to be able to see where the pass is going, and he makes a hell of a lot of interceptions that might possibly go a wee bit unnoticed. So I think, all things considering, how long he's been out, a game with a fair amount riding on it as we push for seconds, in a very, very hostile environment, he's done well, and he can hold his head high this evening. Now, we mentioned obviously that there's been some shocking refereeing decisions recently, and today was another performance which was absolutely abysmal, in my opinion, from Andy Dallas. I'm usually quite sympathetic towards referees. I would never want to do the job myself. My dad was actually a qualified referee, and he would always say how difficult it is, and I always kind of felt some of what was said about referees is harsh and over the top, and they only get to see it once, and the game's going at 1,000,000 miles an hour. But the refereeing performance today is one that I could never criticise strongly enough. We'll start off with the penalty again. The opening goal in this game was scored by a penalty. David, I'll come to you first. Was it a penalty?
I would say yes, marginally yes. David Bates' decision making to raise his arms and try and pull back, I think it was Jamie McLaren. You could maybe say that in his defence, he started pulling him outside the box, but obviously it continued into the box just on the 18-yard line, and so I don't think it gives the referee any option but to give a penalty.
Colin, how about yourself? Was it a penalty?
I thought it was tad soft, to be fair. I mean, it's one of those ones, I think, technically it's a penalty. I think there's an argument, as David says there, that it started outside the box, but I thought it was soft. I thought it was soft, but it was the least of his poor decisions today, I think, Dallas. It was one of the worst refereeing performances. The season has ended the way it started, essentially, because it started off against Hibs with a horrendous refereeing performance for Beaton. Stokes should have been sent off, then he sends off Ryan Jack. But these things have an impact. They change the way games are going. If Stokes gets sent off in the first 10 minutes of that game, we probably going and win that game at Ibrox Saturday. And today, Dallas was the same, just some absolute shocking decisions. And I think the penalty was actually one of the ones that's the least controversial. To
me, I don't think it could have been a penalty because, like you've both said, the contact started outside the box. The foul started outside the box. So at what point has he decided that that's a foul? Is it suddenly as soon as he's crossed the white line into the penalty area, that's when the referee's decided it's a foul? That's not logical to me. That doesn't make sense. If it's a foul, it started outside the box. You have to give the foul where the foul took place initially. So it doesn't make sense to me. I also didn't like the way, I don't know if either of you guys were at the game today. I was watching it on BT Sport. I didn't like the way that every pundit was saying that's a stick-on penalty. And despite the fact the only camera angle we had was about 60 feet away and it was a dead blurry image, you can't really see what's going on. But you've got the whole media.
But Ross, you said this with Craig and Sutton. When Rangers were 3-0 down today, I don't know how you felt, but it felt to me like they were enjoying it. It felt there was an element of gloating in how they were talking and all the rest of it. And we've spoke about this in the pod. Yeah, we've spoke about this in the past on the podcast. It's with Sky, it's Andy Walker. On BT, it's all of them apart from McCoist, and even McCoist sometimes can cross the line. So yeah, I'm with you in that. I was getting annoyed today at some of the comments that we're getting.
Right, we'll stick on the referee. And for anyone that's not seen the game today, there was, not to sound too dramatic, there's what can only be described as an absolute horror tackle from the sweetheart of the Rangers fans, Scott Allen. Colin, we've spoken about this off air just now. The tackle that he makes on Jordan Rossiter, a full 3 yards ahead of the referee. What did you make of that today?
It's a shocker. It really is. He's endangering an opponent. I mean, no attempt to play for the ball, and it was actually, he was getting back at Rossiter because Rossiter had fouled someone a couple of minutes before it. So there's nothing in there that doesn't say a red card. And the fact is that Andrew Dallas is about 2 yards away. He's standing looking right at it. Scott Allen's out of control, both feet off the ground. There's actually, just before we came on, I caught something on social media. Someone had, stuck the sort of slow motion replay, and when it shows you, there's a Hibs fan in the background putting his head in his hands, as if, oh no, he's going to, is that already accepting he's going to be sent off for that? And he's about 10, 15 yards further away to the incident than Andrew Dallas was. So how he came to the conclusion that it wasn't a red card is beyond me. As I said before we came on air, it's either, so blatant he can't referee at this level, or he's just cheating. He's just saying, I'm not going to do that. And sometimes I think it's got to do with, who's on the bench in terms of the manager. And I sometimes think we've had weak managers over the last few years. I think in the back of a lot of referees' minds, when it comes to these kind of decisions, it's people like Neil Lennon, or he'll scream in the papers, he'll moan about me after the game. These things do have an impact. I don't care what anyone says. When you claim for things and you make such a big fuss about it, if a bad one goes against you, referees, it's in the back of their head, So I don't know why he never produced a red card, but it was there was no other decision he could have come to, really. And the fact that he booked him is scandalous in my opinion.
Absolutely. And look, I don't know if it's the kind of remit of the compliance officer. I have a feeling even if it is in the remit of the compliance officer, I won't be holding my breath that he'll be sticking his head above the parapet on that. And you're absolutely right. The influence that characters like Neil Lennon have on the referees and on the media is it's shameful, absolutely shameful. That listen, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. I don't buy into the party line that referees are all against Rangers and that there's some convention at the SFA every year where they decide how many penalties they'll give against Rangers and how many Rangers players they'll send off. I don't buy into any of that at all. But Colin, what you've said is absolutely spot on, that certain managers know that they can noise up the media, they can noise up the referee, make the referee's life live in hell, and it's not worth the grief that they get. And because we haven't had characters like that in a long time, thinking back, obviously we've had McCoist and we've had Warburton, we've had Caixinha, none of whom have been able to stand up to referees and to bring a certain level of defence of the team and a passion. It means that we're lacking in that front, and that's why things like the Scott Allen tackle today on Jordan Rossiter go unpunished. And it's an absolute sin. It's really shameful, and the SFA need to take a look at the refereeing standards across the board in the country, because it's just not good enough. That said, there was one red card today. Jason Holt saw red towards the end of the game. David, do you think that it was right for Jason Holt to be sent off?
His second yellow card, I think, was inexcusable. Ross, what's he thinking? He's just pulling jerseys back. It's in the Hibs half, close to the halfway line. What is he thinking? It's just I don't know. Jason, grew up a Hearts fan. Anytime he played Hibs, certainly in a Rangers jersey, he busts a gut. He obviously doesn't like them. From a managerial perspective, behaviour like that in the park, it must drive managers and coaches up the wall to see a player do something inexplicable like that and heat pressure on his teammates. Regardless of whether you say, well, it's his first booking, not necessarily merited or whatever. The fact is, he's on a yellow card. He's carrying a yellow, and he gives the referee something to think about, and it's an easy option for the referee because he's pulled him back, and it's a free kick. It's just daft for Jason Holt.
I get that, David, but I think the biggest issue that certainly I have and a lot of supporters have is the consistency. There's a real lack of consistency. Now, quite early you're saying there that Jason Holt's given the referee a decision to make. Scott Allen gave the referee a decision to make, and he never took the ultimate sanction. And there's been a rake of these this season. You had we mentioned earlier on the Hibs game at the start of the season. There was the incident in the semi-final against Motherwell where Cardoso got his nose broken. The penalty last week against Aberdeen, penalty today, Scott Allen today. There's been a few of these this season, and I must admit, I don't buy the conspiracy theory thing, but it does feel like there's a lot going against us this season.
No, what you're saying there, Colin, you could make a case that Rangers have been refereed to a different standard this season. I don't think there's any doubt about that, but Ross was asking the question there, did Jason Holt deserve to go? Aye, he did. What you're saying there about Scott Allen, you're looking for consistency, definitely. When you see such glaring inconsistency in a game, never mind over half a dozen games or whatever. Over half a dozen games, you can point to it statistically and say, well, that wasn't it. It didn't even itself out, shall we say? But during the game there, there's no excusing Allen not getting sent off. But for Jason Holt to do that, I'm sticking to my guns. I'm afraid it was just daft on his part.
I agree with you, David. I think to a degree he's let his teammates down. Everyone knew that for the last 10 minutes when they're 5-4 down, they're going to be throwing everything at Rangers, because you've seen how Lennon celebrated at the end. It was as if he won the World Cup, all because he got a goal against the big bad Rangers. But we knew how hard they would be coming at us in the last 10 minutes, and to put the team in a position of having one less man to defend it, that was telling at the end of the day. 2 minutes into injury time, they've got a man free in the box. I think he'll have to be very, very apologetic to his teammates there, because to me, he's let the team down. He's let the fans down doing that. You're right, you can argue all day long as to whether the first yellow was warranted or not. It probably was warranted. He knew what he was doing. He was delaying the game. But to do that at the halfway line, when it was, the ball was close to the touchline anyway, there's just no need. And it shows a lack of intelligence. It shows the poor decision making that we've spoken about time and time again on this podcast. And it really, really frustrates me. Just as a final thing on this game, obviously we've mentioned Neil Lennon in passing once or twice there. He manages to get himself sent to the stands yet again. And listen, this is a Rangers podcast. We're here to talk about Rangers. But this guy has, for me, he has such a negative impact on Scottish football. He's got such a reputation. He can't keep his emotions in check. And obviously I know he's got, kind of mental health issues in the past, and that's not what I'm driving at all. What I'm trying to say is the guy is a liability with the media, with the officials. He finds himself sent to the stands yet again for the way he celebrated a winner. It's not a winner, he celebrated getting a draw at home. The pundits and the media have said, Colin, that Neil Lennon is a character that we need in the Scottish game. He brings a passion to the game up here that's it's good for the game. I despise the guy, personally. Do we need him? Does he bring anything that we need? Or is he does he bring a bad reputation? Is he just trouble?
I mean, in terms of his team, I don't think anyone can deny that he's put together a decent Hibs team there, and they're easy on the eye as well. They're a good side, and I think he is a fairly decent manager, certainly in Scotland anyway. I'm aware he got found out a wee bit at Bolton, but as a character, I just find him hard work. He just seems to, and what really grates with me about the whole thing is if it was anyone else doing this, I think a lot of your media commentators who sort of, praise him and say, oh, he's fine, he's this and that, they would be, imagine Walter Smith doing something like that today. You know what I mean? Imagine any Rangers manager, if you reverse the circumstances, a previous Rangers manager managing Hearts against Celtic, and they score a last-minute equaliser, and he goes running down onto the park towards the Celtic fans. Imagine what some of the media commentators would be saying about that. I don't know. I do know how he gets away with it, because he's obviously had a lot to put up with some of the stuff off the park, and there's the mental health issues that you've sort of mentioned previously, and I just kind of wonder if that kind of stuff makes him untouchable, and he just uses it, and he uses it well, to be fair, because he gets away with murder. That today again was embarrassing. Even on Wednesday night against the Hearts game, he can't even walk off the park. He's got to gesture to the crowd. He's always got to be doing something. And I just despise him. I just don't like him at all.
Spot on. The guy's a clown, and he's an embarrassment to the game up here. We'll leave it there for the games. What we're going to do now, obviously we mentioned that's wrapped up the season for Rangers. We're going to take a wee look back over the course of the season. It's third place, 70 points, 12 points behind Celtic, and 55 is delayed for at least another year. David, there's no way this season could be called a success. Would it be fair to call it a failure?
Difficult to say. Ross, I think given that that's 2 consecutive seasons where they've got to cup semis, they finished third in the league both times. I dare say you could call it, a season of stagnation. They've not improved. They've not really got any worse. You could say that they've closed the gap in points to Celtic, but that's probably more to do with how Celtic have tailed off in terms of their form. Again, without being hypercritical, you could make a case that it has been a season of failure. There was so much optimism, whether it was misplaced or not, for the start of the season under Pedro. I've said before in previous pods that it just seems like a situation of our own making, and it's been compounded by making mistakes, and it all just there's an overwhelming feeling of self-inflicted pain attached to this season. But Colin touched on there a few comments ago about the team was building up a wee head of steam. The confidence was fragile, but obviously the word to a post has maybe played a significant part in the outcome of the season. If Alfredo sticks in that equaliser in the last league game at Ibrox, I still think their confidence would have suffered, but I don't think it would have suffered as bad. I think it played a major part in the results of the cup semi, and that obviously had a knock-on effect of the final league game at Parkhead. So over the piece, there's not been any great improvement. And if Rangers don't get through, I'll put it this way: if Rangers get through a season without winning a trophy, I dare say it could be deemed a failure.
How about you, Colin? Is failure a fair word for this season?
I think so, Ross. Yeah, I think it's been a really poor season. I mean, we're 3 points better off than last season, and we're closer to Celtic. We were 33 points behind them last season. We've put that down to 12 this season, but the majority of that is down to them regressing. They've regressed considerably. There's something like 20, 30 points worse off this season. So, and when you consider the amount of points we've dropped at home, we've lost 7 games, and we've had 2 draws, so that's 25 points or something. Even if we'd got 50% of those points, we're right up there. And at crucial points in the season, when we had the opportunity to ask questions of Celtic, that's where the mental fragility that I've been talking about previously kicked in. When any sort of expectation was or challenge was put in front of them, they just crumbled every single time. I think we could have given them a wee bit of a fright this season. No saying we could have won it, but we certainly could have made a fist of it. And I think it's a failure. And the fact that the 2 semi-finals, the Motherwell game was a shambles. The Celtic game was an utter shambles. The European campaign was an embarrassment. So yeah, I think we've gift wrapped the title for them this season. I think it's been a very, very bad season.
I think you're not far off there, Colin. Celtic won the league this year, I think, with 82 points. Looking back over the history of the SPL, and particularly when there's been a strong Rangers and Celtic side, 82 points is a very, very low winning tally. So they were there for the taking. For me, there's been a few really pivotal, crucial turning points where things haven't gone our way. And I can think of 3 matches in particular, 2 of which were very, very close to each other. Some really important results for us were when Graham Murray had just come in, and I think we lost to Hamilton and to Dundee in quick succession at home. It was 2 games that we should never have lost. And those extra 6 points at that point in the season would have been massive, absolutely massive, about keeping a bit of pressure on going into Christmas. And then the other, possibly even more vital turning point for me was the 3-2 loss against them at Ibrox in 2018, when they go down to 10 men, and we should never, never have lost that game. If we'd won that game, we'd have been in such good form going into it. We'd had such a good start to 2018, a strong February. And if we'd kept the pressure on, I remember speaking to you guys about this, a couple of months ago, the momentum that we had going into that game. And to lose it in the manner that we did was for me a real turning point when heads dropped across the board. So you're right, it's a season of what could have been. But the gap is closed. A 12-point gap down from 30 odd. It's going in the right direction. It's going in the right direction fast. 12 months ago, I was nowhere near confident that we could stop 10 in a row. Now we're a season later, and they've got one season closer, but I actually feel better about doing it. The gap's closing, and we'll see where we are. Colin, you mentioned there about a shocking European campaign. It can't even be called a campaign. 180 minutes of European football this year. Maybe the writing was on the wall for Pedro back in July, that night in Luxembourg. Looking back over the course of the season and with the benefit of hindsight, should Pedro have gone earlier than he did? Or even on the flip side of that, was Pedro maybe not given enough time?
I'll take it one step further. He should never have been appointed, as far as I'm concerned. It was just never of the required calibre. I've seen a lot of people up here in the media criticising the appointment of Steven Gerrard, and there's no doubt about the fact that Steven Gerrard, there's a bit of a risk there. He's not experienced in terms of management and stuff like that. But what he does have is that winning mentality. He knows how big clubs operate. So if you're going to take a punt, then you take a punt on someone like him. To bring in some guy from, where was he managing before, Mexico or something like that no one's heard of. I wasn't convinced when he was appointed. I just thought, who is this guy? Why are we appointing this guy? And very early on, I felt, no, this is going to be a disaster. The European one was at that point, you think, no, this is going to be a poor season, and that's the way it's turned out. I don't think he should have got more time at all. I think he should have got. He shouldn't have been appointed in the first place. It was a bizarre appointment. He was never up to the task, and then the board compound that by putting Murty in place after him. Again, another man who, in my opinion, just wasn't up to it. And that's led down, when you consider the disastrous season we've had, and we've only finished 12 points behind them. And I say only because last year it was like 33, 34 points. So if we'd had any sort of structure this season, a decent manager in, you just never know. But no, Pedro, no, he wasn't for me at all, I'm afraid.
David, we've recruited a huge number of players, many of whom have come in from overseas over the course of the two transfer windows. How do you rate the success of those transfer windows? Obviously, summer we've got the foreign imports with Morelos, Alves, Cardozo, Herrera, Carlos Pena, and then obviously Ryan Jack coming in as well. Then in the January window had a bit more of a kind of UK flavour to it with Sean Goss, Jason Cummins, Jamie Murphy coming up from England, and Greg Docherty from Hamilton. I remember particularly in the summer when people like Bruno Alves came and Carlos Pena came, the excitement was palpable. Everyone was really buzzing that these guys from Portugal or from Mexico were coming across, and we were going to bring a kind of new brand of football to the SPL. For me, it's been the summer signings, apart from Alfredo Morelos, and through no fault of his own, obviously Ryan Jack being out injured for most of the season. The summer transfer window was a nightmare. And personally, I don't think that January's been much better. It's been a slight improvement, but not a great deal better. How do you kind of rate the success of those two transfer windows?
It's difficult to put your finger on it, Ross. I think the one thing that sticks out for me is the difference between Mark Allen being involved as a director of football and overseeing the recruitment windows. The summer window, I could be wrong here, but I don't imagine he had too much input into those signings. I think some board members may well have pushed for the likes of maybe Graham Dorn's been signed. Pedro's obviously sought to bring in guys that he could communicate with without any problem, hence the Portuguese guys that came in. I think Bruno Alves, he was, of all the players that came, I think Alves was the one that people could, look to his past playing record and say, right, we've got somebody here providing he stays fit, given his exploits in the previous summer at the Euros. Fabio Cardozo, again, he was talked up in the press as being one for the future in Portuguese football. He's not really done a heck of a lot. Ryan Jack obviously came from Aberdeen, decent player, Ryan. I think he struggled to adapt at first. When he was trying too hard, he was getting into tackles that maybe didn't need to go into, and subsequently get himself sent off, rightly or wrongly, whether it was through poor refereeing or not. And the Mexican guys, Carlos Pena, Eduardo Herrera, they were always going to be a risk in my view. I can remember saying to people that I go to the game with, saying, I just hope we don't need to pay off Portuguese and Mexican players this time next year. that may well turn out to be the case. We'll need to wait and see with how Steve and Gerrard views them. With regards to January transfer window, again, Mark Allen's obviously had a major input in that. He's had possibly the remit to get bodies in without spending any money. Could you view them as being successful? I mean, obviously, I correct myself there. They spent money on Greg Docherty and Declan John. Those two players, I think they've been decent squad additions. If Jamie Murphy, by all accounts, that was just a deferred payment in terms of the loan, so he's going to be a permanent. I think again, Jamie Murphy's a reasonable player. I think he'll be a decent squad addition. Jason Cummins, I know there's a bit of debate about whether people think he's good enough to play for Rangers. I said a few pods back there that I would go with Jason Cummins if he's going to cost 600k. Sean Goss is obviously going to go back to QPR. I think over the piece, I think it's been patchy at best, the two transfer windows, Ross, and I only hope that Stevie G can get us moving in the right direction when it comes to player acquisitions.
Absolutely, and I think that's a big part of appointing Stevie G is obviously first and foremost Liverpool connections, and there's rumours going already that there's discussions about who can come up on loan from Liverpool, whether that's players the calibre of someone like Danny Ings or if it's more your 18, 19, 20-year-olds trying to get some first-team football experience. It's probably a market that we wouldn't have had access to were it not for someone with such good links to Liverpool. But also, you've got to hope and aspire to the fact that hopefully if you're a young, semi-talented footballer and you're trying to find a team to play for, are you going to go and settle for some kind of Midland Championship team in England, or are you going to come and play for Stevie G? And so hopefully you're right, David. Hopefully it does kind of breed an atmosphere where players want to come and play for us, and he's got the connections to get young, hungry, talented players to come up and play at Ibrox. I think the transfer windows this year at the time seemed great and have subsequently proved not to be so hot. I think you're right. We'll see a kind of wholesale clearance of particularly the Mexicans and the Portuguese guys that came in early in the season. It's hard not to see it for me as two transfer windows wasted. There was a bit of an improvement in January, and you do have to applaud some of the work that Mark Allen did there. But ultimately, I think things on the player recruitment front really have to pick up going forward into next season. Right, what I'm going to do now is a wee bit more quick fire questions for you both. David, I'll come to you first. I want you to give me a highlight and a low point of the season, and who would your player of the season be?
The low point would be the 5-0 game at Parkhead. High point would be the appointment of Steven Gerrard. And the player of the season, this is a more difficult one for me. For consistency, Daniel Candeias. For improvement, James Tavernier. But probably the overall player of the season, I'd probably go for Alfredo Morelos. Colin, how about yourself?
Well, there's too many low points to think about. The two Celtic games were sore ones. The European one, the Progress game was that was a dull one. That really that nipped. I would agree with David in terms of the Steven Gerrard. That's probably been and I think that shows the sort of season that we've had. That high point is something that happened off the park, but it was a good day. It felt good to be a Rangers fan that day. So yeah, I'd have that as my high point. My player of the season, I would probably go again. I'd probably agree with David. The other would be Candeias or Morelos. There's not been too much to pick. To be fair, there's just no real standout candidates. You know what I mean? So it's just been one of those years, I think.
It's a shocking, isn't it? We've put this podcast together hopefully to get some conversation, some debate going amongst us, and all three of us are finding ourselves agreeing with each other on the high point, low point player of the season. That's fine. At least we're consistent here at Gersnet. What we're going to do now, we're going to look ahead to the coming season. As we mentioned, we're all dead excited. The arrival of Steven Gerrard is one of the most exciting things surely to happen to Scottish football in a long, long time, and it'll breathe some much needed life and energy back into the game and back into the club. Colin, looking ahead to the 2018-2019 season, it's a big question, but what needs to change at Rangers to win 55 this year?
Well, again, going back to that sort of winning mentality, and I think that's something that Gerrard will bring. But we need better players. I think this season has shown it's a kind of strange one. We're the league's highest scorers. We've also conceded the most goals. So I think we need a back four. And I would include Tavernier in that. I think Tavernier today going forward was excellent. But that equaliser, it's a sort of combination of him and Russell Martin again, you know. So I think defensively he's a wee bit suspect. So I think we need to strengthen at the back. By all accounts, Alan McGregor's on his way back. That could be a good start. So centre-half pairing at least a spine, essentially. I think we need a spine on the park and that winning mentality as well, you know, that determination to just, you know, find a way to win games, you know, because not every game, I mean, and even that mob across the road under Brenda, you know, they have their days when they're not playing that well, but they always just find a way, you know, and that's what good teams do. They just find a way. When they're having an off day at the office, they'll find a way to get the 3 points in the bag. And
sorry to interrupt you, Colin, there. They don't always find a way, because sometimes when they're playing a team that can secure second and make sure that Rangers don't get second, find a way in that one. Well, that's all down to sporting integrity again, Ross, isn't it? You know, so but in the games that they want to win, I'll rephrase it. In the games that they want to win, they always just seem to find a way, and that's what winning teams do. They find a way, and so that's what we need. We just need that wee bit more sort of mental strength, and you know, just a sense of belief and determination to get through games when you're just having those off days. David, you've spoken on this pod and on previous pods about the fact that kind of the calibre of players isn't really good enough for the club. Can you be kind of more specific on that? Where do you think we need to strengthen? Colin's mentioned that we need a new back four and a new spine of the team. Would you agree with him?
Yeah, I would concur entirely with what Colin said there. The word is spine, you know, in every sense of the word. You know, we need backbone in the players. You know, they just need something about us. I think that's going to be a big part of Stevie's task at hand, is to, assuming he's not going to, you know, discard everyone at the club. He's going to need to instill belief in a lot of these players that have maybe been lacking. In terms of quality, there's no doubt. I think a better goalkeeper would instill confidence in two centre-halves in front of him. I think there may well be room for Bruno Alves. I'm not too sure on that one. I wouldn't be hasty to discard them. I think we certainly, from a squad perspective, we need two centre-halves. You could make a case for getting two backs in. I don't think Declan John or James Tavernier are particularly good going back the way. Having said that, I think James Tavernier has improved over the course of the season. Declan John, we've only really seen 4 or 5 months of him, so he's not exactly set the heather alight in terms of defensive capability. Through the middle, today I thought Jordan Rossiter's performance was very good, given that he's not kicked a ball all season. I think that the big thing that stuck out for me was his awareness. He seemed to have loads of time in the ball. He knew what was running about him. He didn't seem panicked, and that's usually the hallmarks of a good player. So hopefully that horrendous assault with Scott Allen today hasn't set him back in terms of his playing time going into pre-season. Through the middle, going up front, you made mention of the fact that we're the highest goal scorers in the league. That, I think, paints a false picture, because I've never done going on about, we don't seem to create a lot of chances. Now, people will say, well, Daniel Candeias, he knocks 2 gilt-edged chances into the box per game. And statistically, that may well be borne out, but it's the quality of crosses that he puts into the box. You're lucky if you get a couple of crosses per game out of him. If you look back to somebody like Neil McCann, who, before he arrived at Ibrox, people pointed the finger at him for being erratic. Well, he upped his game considerably, where more often than not he'd put crosses right on the button. So we definitely need better quality in terms of creating chances. That you can extend that further in terms of putting chances away. I mean, if some of the chances that Alfredo had missed, some of the big sitters, that's going to translate into points. Working back the way, better defenders. Looking at the day, I mean, you look. David Bates, he looked back to his old tentative self. Russell Martin, enough said. And obviously, Colin made mention there, James Tavernier at the equaliser for 5 each. I think that was down to the fact James Tavernier plays a big part in driving that team forward. And he's expending a lot of energy. And you've seen there Brandon Barker, he just knocked the ball past him and just ran by him. And James was literally toiling to get back there. But there's got to be a spine and better quality players brought in. And that's, as we've said before in the pod, that's going to cost money.
Certainly will, absolutely. I think we've all kind of touched on it, the mentality and the issues that we have with having a competitive winning streak in the players is something that needs to be addressed urgently. And thankfully, we've got a manager coming in who is a renowned leader, doesn't accept second best and is a winner. So hopefully he can either inspire some kind of newfound confidence in some of our players or identify players that do not have the requisite winning mentality and ship them out the door. Because I think that our club is riddled with people who think that it's okay to get a 1-1 draw, or it's not too bad if we draw against Aberdeen or if we draw against Hibs. These are teams that we as Rangers should be beating week in, week out. And I think some of our players do not understand that still after all these years, do not understand the expectation of the fans to win every game. And every game means every game. So hopefully Gerrard can either instill that in players already at the club, or will identify the ones that will never have that mentality and ship them out the door and replace it with guys who know what it takes to win at a big club. Now, we've all mentioned as well that one of the most painful things about this season was the embarrassment in Luxembourg. So with a slightly different question, David, I'll come to you first on this. For you, what would constitute success in Europe this year? Obviously, we're going in to the early stages of the Europa League again at the first qualifying rounds. I don't necessarily need you to kind of say, we need to get to the group stages or anything like that, but what would you judge as a success in Europe for us?
Not to dodge the question, that'll all, when we see the calibre of player that Steven Gerrard signs, that would obviously have an impact on where you would see them reaching in Europe. I think, given our absence from European competition, I think qualification into the group stages of the Europa League would represent a successful season. I don't know how do you measure it? Is it exposure? Is it a decent group where some glamour ties and the fans can get up and enjoy European football again, or is it the financial reward? I'm not too sure. The obvious answer would be, don't get embarrassed again by a relative minnow, or don't shoot yourself in the foot. That would represent success to me. But I think if they can get into the group, get a decent draw, maybe get a couple of glamour fixtures out of a group section and give a reasonable account of themselves, that could represent success. But again, it's all driven down to how Stevie turns it around, who he signs, what he does. I mean, he's got a tremendous opportunity to stamp his mark on the club as a whole, and hopefully really drive it forward. I would say group participation, Ross.
How about you, Colin? What represents success in Europe for you?
Again, I would have to concur. I think if we go to the group stages, that would be good. I was doing a wee bit of research today, and the teams that qualified for the group stages this year got approximately 2.3 million each, and then 300k for every game that they won, and 100k for every draw. So I mean, it's no the sort of revenue that you'll get from the Champions League, but it's revenue that we've not had for the last 4 or 5 years. As David pointed out there, we've been absent from Europe since the financial sort of calamity. So, that would represent to me the next stage in terms of the club getting back to normal again. We've already got the Sports Direct thing sorted. So the kit deal, that's something else. That's another revenue stream that we've been denied for the last 2 or 3 years. So when you've got the kit deal coming in, David King's announced the share issue. So if we could get into the group stages and get some revenue in, I think that's another sort of positive sign in the sort of overall recovery of the club.
Yeah, I think it's fair. I think getting to the group stages might be a tad ambitious. It would certainly represent success for me. You've seen, last year the fans going away to a friendly in Leipzig What was it? 8,000 of us went along to that, and you've even seen fans following the young team going across, the under-20s going across into Europe and playing some of their glamour friendlies across Europe. We want to travel. We want to go abroad. We want to follow the team, and we deserve it now. We've had so many years of waiting for some success and waiting for a good day out. I'm so hopeful this year that we get further than the first qualifying round, and that the fans are treated to some glamour days and getting to travel across Europe like we did in the old days. We're now 10 years exactly from that day in Manchester. And you think back to the memories of that run, getting to the final, the penalties at Fiorentina, beating Sporting Lisbon, all the memories that were made that year. We're now 10 years on from that. And for me, it's time. We need, as a fan base, we need and we deserve to be treated to memories like that again. And that is something that I'm really, really hoping for this season. I hope that when we look back on this season in 12 months' time, we have fond memories of a European campaign where we brought some fun and some joy back to Ibrox and to Scottish football. Hopefully Steven Gerrard's the man to do that, and I think we're all really optimistic that this could happen this year. Right, again, moving into a slightly different direction. A large part of this season obviously was categorised by management under Graham Murty, who a couple of weeks ago left his post as technically interim Rangers manager until the end of the season. He walked a few weeks early. It's not entirely clear what's going to happen to Graham Murty now, because obviously he was the under-20s coach and then he stepped up to fill in post Caixinha. And the last I heard was that Graham Murty was taking some time away to assess all of the options. Colin, do you think that there's a role for Murty at the club, or is it best if we kind of sever ties there?
Well, I think that's down to Graham Murty. I believe the club have sort of left the door open for him. So, I mean, I saw Chris Boyd talking a couple of weeks ago in one of the games saying there's no way that he will stay at Rangers if they appoint a new manager. It would be too awkward and all the rest of it. I don't necessarily agree with that. Murty's away now. By all accounts, again, there's been issues surrounding his mental health and all the rest of it. The strain really got to him. So if he's going away to sort himself out and make his decision, I think that's up to him. If the club have left the door open for him, then I wouldn't mind him going back to his previous post, to be honest with you. What I think it does suggest, though, is that there's no future for Lee Wallace. I know Stuart Robertson, he sort of announced last week that they were coming to the end of the investigation, but I can't see any way in which the two could coexist within Ibrox. It's obviously been something fairly heavy that's went on in that dressing room. So if the club have already come out and said that they're keeping the door open for Murty, then I think that spells the end for Lee Wallace. I don't think he'll be back at Rangers. Yeah,
I think that's a good point, actually. It almost does seem like they've picked their horse and they said, right, you can come back, but it means that you're away. And if some of the rumours about Lee Wallace this season are true, then I have no issue with him not coming back to the club. But listen, that might be unfair because all that we seem to get is rumour and conjecture and innuendo. So I doubt we'll ever know really what went on between the two. David, how about yourself? Would you be happy to see Graham Murty in a role back at the club coaching the youths, considering his record as first team manager?
I'm not too sure, Ross. Obviously, the club were legally obliged to offer him his old job back because he took up an interim position. Whether his reputation's tarnished even in the eyes of the young players, I don't know. I think his success rate, the games that he oversaw, I'm sure I saw a statistic that his win rate was something like 35%, something like that. And since Billy Cutwood and Peter Lovencrans have taken over the team, the win rate went up to over 70%. I think it was before the Burnley game last weekend. Would I like to see him back at the club? That's a difficult one. Again, we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. I don't know. You've put me in the spot here. Put it this way, I don't think he will be at the club going forward. I think he'll look to move on. I think the whole experience for the guy has came too soon for him. I think he overestimated the situation. I think you could point the finger at the guy for actually taking the job on. I mean, he'd have been perfectly within his rights to say to Stuart Robertson and whoever on the board that maybe pushed for it to say, no, look, I've went through it once before, guys. I was happy to help you out, but I don't feel qualified to do this. And I don't think he would have burned any bridges with any, internally with any club employees. So I don't think he can be there in the long term. I don't think he will be.
Do you know what? I just have a feeling you're right. I think he won't fancy coming back, and actually I don't think that's the wrong decision. I think given it didn't end well, the abuse that he was taking from sections of our own support, not necessarily unwarranted, to be fair. I think he did take it really personally. I think it really did affect him, and he didn't have a thick enough skin for it. So I think it would be brave of him, but it would be hard of him to walk back into Auchenhowie and take up his old position. You're right to mention, has he lost respect to some of the younger players? Difficult to say. But I just have a feeling he won't fancy it, and it's probably best for all involved if we get a clean break from that, and then we can look ahead into the new season. Hopefully Gerrard can bring in his own man to coach the youth, someone that he trusts to coach them the right way, so that there's that pathway into the first team. You just feel like actually it's best for all parties if there's a clean break here and we can look forward instead. Right, well, I think that'll probably wrap things up quite nicely for us this week. I really hope you've enjoyed the show, and if so, please do hit the like and subscribe button and make sure you spread the word for us. Now, obviously, the football's taken a wee break, but that doesn't mean that we will be. Here at the Gersnet Podcast, we've got loads of special shows lined up to help you through the summer. So do keep your eyes on www.gersnet.co.uk for all the latest. And whilst you're there, you should check out all the articles and all the great content. Get yourself signed up to the Gersnet forum for all the latest news in the Rangers chat. Also, please do check out our friends over at We Welcome the Chase podcast. I'm sure you'll agree that the more Rangers content out there, the better. So definitely head over and have a listen. All that's left for me to do is to thank both Colin and David for their time tonight, and also give a big thanks to Graham, our audio engineer, for all his hard work this season. Keep your eyes peeled for loads more Gersnet podcast content very soon. Bye for now.